Welcome to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast, episode number 49. Amy here. I'm so excited that you're here with me this week. This week is a lot about the questions that we're asking ourselves, and I am asking you, I'm putting a call to action in today's podcast. So if you're ready to level up, if you are in the point of moving forward in your life and seeing big changes, then let's get into it because today is gonna be good. I spent years building my interior design business, trying to do all the things: the marketing, the networking, the free content, spending thousands of dollars on training and education, only to see minimal growth. After years of frustration, I finally started to ask, what am I missing? I had the systems in place for powerful growth. I had amazing clients. I had determination, drive, and commitment to spare. And yet, I wasn't seeing the success I desired. What if business is not about the doing? What if building a powerful business requires both powerful systems and something else, something deeper? I'm Amy Van Meel, and I'm on a journey to discover that something else. If you are ready to build a powerful business and do it knowing that your success is inevitable, join me as I share both the powerful systems I know work and my lessons and revelations as I discover that something deeper. Welcome, Changemaker, to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast. Well, hey there, Changemakers. Amy here. Welcome to episode number 49. It's kind of blowing my mind that we're at episode 49 already. I actually feel like I should be like way further than 49. And on the other hand, I mean, it's 49 episodes already. It's hard to believe. I think it's a little more than a year ago, or just under a year ago, maybe, I could be wrong on this, that I started this whole journey with the podcast. And I started it on, call it a whim, divine inspiration. Inspired action was taken that day. I had just launched Dare to Begin like a couple weeks before, and I knew that I needed to do some kind of content platform. My thought was that I was going to do a blog or something, and podcasting became it. So if you've been on the ride with me since day one, thank you so much for joining me. I love having you here every week, or at least the last 49 episodes. So exciting. Super stoked that you're here. So if you were listening into last week's episode, thank you so much for listening into last week's episode and for hopefully sending some healing vibes my way. I'm actually recording today's episode the same day that I recorded last week's episode. I'm feeling a little bit better this afternoon. I recorded last week's episode, goodness gracious, this morning. And so I'm trusting that we're going to hold out here, that I'm going to be all right, not too sniffly for you today. And I mentioned last week that I've been a little bit under the weather. I've been moving through a cold the last week or so, which is totally fine. And I just want to share, my coach, as it turns out, I've been hiding from the world. If you've noticed, I haven't been on Instagram really since before Christmas. I'm barely on Facebook. If I am on Facebook, I'm mostly just listening and reading and watching other people's posts, occasionally commenting. But I've been really checked out, and it's been somewhat by design to have some time to myself, to actually just really give myself a break. So I still worked over Christmas in that, I have two businesses, right? I have this one. I have my design business as well, which is still going strong, and I have my full-time job. So excuse me, I was still working over Christmas time at my job, but it's holiday season, so it wasn't quite so busy, which was nice. So I worked in the living room. Normally I would do all my work in the office, and I figured it's holiday time, so I'm going to work in the living room, sit there and watch my Christmas tree and just enjoy, the fact that I can work on my couch for a couple of weeks. So I've really enjoyed it. And so anyway, I've been hiding from the world, and I did not realize my coach, I love checking out her posts. She's also started a new Instagram channel. I think it's called @Atmospheric Impressions, if you're at all interested. But on her new Instagram channel, she actually does IGTV stories, which is, or IGTV videos. I don't know, whatever it is, the IGTV version, guys. You know what I'm talking about. Where she's importing a lot of the insight that she has. So my coach is really an amazing person. She is tuned into a lot of the energetic frequencies, things that are moving on, moving around. So I'm starting to get better at discerning when things are happening. I can feel energetic shifts just in the sense of like, I know something's going on, something feels weird. And I'm like, there's something happening. And so I just need to pay attention. But she also often helps to explain what's happening. So if, I'll feel funny sometimes, or I'll feel like I seem to be working through this like particular whatever. And then I'll see a post from her and she's like, oh yeah, this is the stuff that's coming up right now. I'm like, oh, okay, well that makes total sense. So her post, her most recent one, she was actually, she was quite sick. And I think she's still in recovery right now. I don't think she's feeling better yet, but she, was posting just that she's not feeling well. And what she was posting about was not to say like, look at me, how please feel bad for me, I'm not feeling well, send me healing energy. What she was saying was that she knew she's in a big leveling up. She's been doing a lot of clearing, a lot of just moving through a lot of emotions and a lot of history, a lot of stuff. And so she's been having a ton of clearing. And so this cold, this illness that she has manifested as part of the purging of these energies, of this crap that really she's been holding on to for so long. So when I started my cold, when I could, and it's so funny, I didn't know she was sick, but everybody here has been getting sick. If you're in Calgary, you feel me. Like everybody knows somebody who's had the cold, if not, had it yourself. But when I got the cold this time, I knew at the time, it was so funny, and I'm going to try to be more eloquent with my words today, guys, I promise. I had just started, I mentioned last week that I was doing a course from Catherine Zankina called Epically Aligned. If you're not familiar with it, it's phenomenal. I don't think she offers it anything other than at the beginning of the year, so I suspect her next offering will be the beginning of next year. So mark it on your calendar, get on her mailing list so you can like get in on it, because that's how I found out about the program. But Epically Aligned is all about setting big goals for yourself, setting powerful goals for yourself, aligned goals for yourself, hence Epically Aligned. And I realized, so I watched the first program video on Tuesday, and Wednesday I started getting sick. I could feel it just starting to happen, like right at the back of my nose. I could start to feel it, like, oh, okay, something's coming on. And sure enough, I've gone through the whole thing. Like it went all the way down my throat. I was coughing a lot, and the whole, delightful cold situation. But what I realized about 2 days in is that the same time last year, I was setting goals for myself. And the same week that I was setting goals for myself, I got sick. And I realized I was being taken out a bit because obviously when you have a cold, right, your energy levels drop like crazy. My head was pounding, my nose hurt, my throat hurt. Like I was struggling a bit to stay on things. So I gave myself time to rest because rest is the best thing that can help myself when I need to heal. To give my body, that's a very powerful tool to give your body when you're moving through something that whether it's an illness, whether it's something that's like requiring a ton of energy for you, getting a lot of rest is really powerful for you. But what I realized was that the same time last year that I was setting my goals, I had gotten almost the exact same cold. And I thought, wow, isn't that so funny that I haven't actually changed anything this week or had any interactions recently that I can think of that would bring this cold into my body. And I mean, I like to tease my guy and tell him that he's the reason that, because he brought it home. I mean, his job has him out, in the world. And he's been telling me for weeks about how everybody's been getting sick. And so I'm like, well, thanks a lot. You brought it home and gave it to me. I mean, you just like skipped over it yourself and just handed it off. But I know that there's something deeper at play. So when I saw the video from my coach talking about how she had this illness and was seeing this as a big purge, I knew before I saw this that my body was moving through some big things. I knew that my body was creating a physical manifestation of some of the fears and concerns and the worries that I had around setting these goals. The same thing, like I said, happened last year. The same week that I was setting goals, I got sick. And I thought, well, isn't that so fascinating? And so when I said earlier, and I said last week too, that I'm moving through this cold, I don't look at it as a struggle. It's not that I'm, don't even really talk about being sick, just that I have this cold and my body's moving through it. Because the way I look at it is that my body's preparing for a big leveling up. Whatever is clearing out right now, whatever junk is clearing out right now is getting, like, it's creating space, some really powerful space to align into the things that I'm working on. And so I'm I don't think I've ever been excited about a cold, and not to say that I'm excited about being sick. I'll tell you honestly, I don't really love being sick. It's not my jam. But that said, I am very aware now of what's going on. So what I want to talk about today, I can't believe I'm looking at the clock. It's already been 10 minutes, guys. I've been talking about this. But what I want to talk about today is not about my cold and all the rest of it. What I want to talk about today actually is the questions that you're asking. Now, I think I've done an episode about this before, and I was back and forth about what we should talk about. This is our first couple episodes here in 2020. Big shift. I mentioned already last week that December, January, February seemed to be sort of a bit of a winter cycle, right? We talked about cycles a little bit, and just the idea that, like, I feel like these 3 months in particular seem to have an energy around them that are creating a lot of reflection, a lot of preparation. I look at it, and I mentioned last week about preparing the garden. So I've been going through, as I mentioned, this course from Catherine Zankina, and I keep having this vision in my mind as I've been going through the exercises and the workbooks that she gives us. This vision in my mind of preparing the ground for a very healthy garden. And so I've been doing part of the course is clearing through things. There's been a lot of stuff that came up that I'm just like, oh, I didn't even realize that was a thing. And doing some cord cutting, some energetic cord cutting to release some of the stuff that I've been holding on to, whether it's beliefs that aren't serving me, or just thoughts that, energy frequencies that just have not been helping me, and releasing those. And as I was doing, I had about 5 or 6 one day that just all of a sudden I was like, boop, 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 boop. All of these need to be dealt with now. And as I was going through this cord cutting, energetic, call it a ceremony. I guess you could call it a ceremony, cord cutting ceremony. I just got this vision that every time I would address this whatever issue it was that needed to be addressed, have the cord cut, be energetically severed, unrooted from my life, unrooted from my past, my present, my future, and releasing it and healing it into the universe, and basically letting it go. I kept having this vision of when I was younger. My parents had a garden, so I grew up on a farm. My parents had a garden, and I used to hate it. Every spring, we'd have to go out. It was basically just a big section of field. So because it was part of a field, we had dirt for days. So the garden could be as big as my mom could imagine. So, of course, then there was 4 of us kids. So it was a big garden. But we would go out ahead of time, and we would pull out some of the big weeds if they've already started growing. We would rototill, so we'd till up the land, make sure that the soil got turned over, that it was fertile, that the nutrients could blend back in. We didn't necessarily pull all the weeds out because, our garden was huge. We couldn't possibly imagine all of them. But when you would till it into the land, then you're derooting them, and you're allowing the earth to take those nutrients back in, right? As those plants decompose, they release nutrients again. And so there's a lot of preparation that was done before planting the garden. And then once you plant the garden, planting the garden in and of itself is a phenomenal amount of work, especially given how big ours was. And I always enjoyed that part because you'd hoe the row, right? And you'd drop the seeds in, and you'd put a little stake at the end so you knew where the rows were, because until they start growing, you have no idea where they are. And then, of course, we'd put my mom got smart and put the seed packets at the end of the rows, so we knew what we were growing. But I didn't know anything about, I was a terrible weeder. When the garden started coming in, I didn't know what was a plant, what was a weed. I'm sure I pulled up more plants than I can possibly imagine in my young life as I was trying to be helpful and weed the garden. But I kept having this vision of, preparing this garden, pulling these weeds out, preparing the earth for what was going to be a very abundant garden. And I remember as a kid, we had so many fresh vegetables. We had peas, we had beans, we had carrots, which were never my favorite. We had lettuce, we had potatoes. Those are always my favorite. I loved potatoes out of the garden. And peas, I didn't enjoy eating the peas, but I really enjoyed peeling the peas. There's if you've never done it, just grab a pea and like de-string it and take the peas out. It's kind of fun. There's like a satisfaction to doing it. Don't ask me. Maybe I'm a weird kid, but I really enjoyed that. So as I'm going through this cord cutting and I'm imagining these, doing the ceremony of releasing these things, I kept having this vision of preparing the garden. And I'm so excited for this year coming up, guys. I'm so excited because I feel like this year, for me, I feel for you, I think for a lot of us, this year is a massive leveling up year. So if you're pushing right now, if you're like feeling the friction of that energy that I mentioned, that is really right now, the energy right now is really about, taking stock, doing some looking back, doing some healing, some clearing, some prepping, then I would encourage you to take a short step back and lean into that energy a little bit and start asking some questions around what needs to be cleared. So what I want to talk about today is just, what are the questions that you're asking? Are you asking low quality questions or high quality questions? So low quality questions are questions like, how can I make another $1,000? Or why isn't this moving fast enough? Or let me think. If you were to imagine a garden, like, what's the point of doing this anyway, right? Those are low quality questions. The answers that come out of those questions are not terribly useful. If you're saying like, what's the point of doing this anyway? And the only answer is like, well, because it's a garden, because we want to have food to eat in 6 months, right? It's a low quality question with a really obvious answer. Things like, how can I make an extra $1,000? That one is a little bit on the line. It could be a high quality question, but it depends on the energy and the intention that's behind it. High quality questions are questions that you're encouraging your subconscious to do some deep looking, some reflecting, and to bring a high vibe answer to you. So a high quality question, I mentioned last week that I'm doing a lot of like looking into, who do I want to be? So a high quality question is, who do I want to become? Who do I want to embody this year? If you are at the point of setting goals, or maybe you've already set your goals, I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to look at those goals and think about who is the person that already has achieved those, and how can I embody that person today? So Catherine Zankina talks a lot about this in the program that she's been teaching us, but I know she talks about it on her podcast. I know James Wedmore talks about it. Jim Fortin talks about it. There's a lot of conversation that's happening right now around, becoming this person. And it's something that I'll be totally honest with you, is still very confusing in a way to me. That, there's the defeatist part in me would say, well, if I knew who that was going to be, then I would already be that person. And there's some truth to that, right? If I already knew who I needed to be a multimillionaire, then I'd probably already be a multimillionaire. But if I just leave it at that and say like, well, if I knew who that needed to be, then I'd be that person already, then I'm never ever allowing myself for momentum. I'm never allowing that room for growth. So I'd encourage you to pay attention to the questions that you're asking and where you're asking those questions. I talked about in, I think it was the first podcast in December, so like the second last one of 2019, I believe it was, that I talked about having a look at your surroundings, at the relationships that you're in, and maybe doing a bit of a purge, maybe releasing some of the relationships that aren't serving you. Maybe changing up things a little bit, or leaning into relationships a bit more that really are serving you, that are with people who are much more aligned with where you want to go and the kind of person that you want to become. So maybe some of those questions that you're asking are related to that. Who do I want to be? Who will support me best? Who will help me become this person that I want to become? How can I learn more? How can I grow every day, even if it's a little bit? And of course, this one I love, and this one I've got right from Catherine Zankina is, how can I embody who I need to be? How did she put it? How can I embody today who I need to be, or something like that? Or what can I embody today, how I need to be? Goodness gracious, my mind is just like drawn a blank for some reason on the question. But essentially looking at, like, this is the goal that I've set. In order to reach that goal, I need to become the person who has reached that goal. So how can I be that person today? So one of my big goals is essentially aligned around this higher level version of myself that I want to be. A lot of the questions that I've been asking and revelations that have been coming to me in the last few weeks have been around the realization that I've been playing very small, that I have been moving back into a comfort zone. So I made big strides forward in 2019, huge strides forwards in 2019. I don't want to sell short the amount of work that I've been doing at all. And that's not for me to justify my work to you, but I want you to understand that, this is a really easy way that we talk ourselves out of how much progress we've made, that we're just like, okay, well, I did some really good things, but overall, I really kind of played small. No, that's not it at all. I did some big work in 2019. I healed a lot of deep wounds in 2019. I took some major strides forward, but I've also realized that I've become complacent in some things. So what was very interesting to me, I just realized, I think yesterday or this morning, that as I mentioned, I've had this cold for the last week. I had intended to be moving back into the activities of my businesses last week, because I picked up this cold, and of course, all of the energetic energy that came with that, just feeling drained and tired and, sore and all the rest of it, and not being super aware. My mental capacity was diminished significantly. But because of that, I took some time to rest. That's all well and good. It's super important to take the time to rest. But what I realized this morning was that I was starting to lean into this, I don't want to work too hard. I want to have more time to just relax. I really enjoy having my cup of coffee and being able to watch a movie or something in the morning, because that's what I've been doing the last few weeks. And it's been delightful. It's been really good for me. It's been really fantastic to be able to give myself that break and to just lean wholeheartedly into, like, there were days that I worked in my sweatpants. That might sound crazy to you, like, Amy, why is that such a big deal? To me, that's a big deal. Even though I work from home, and even though, 90% of the time nobody sees me during the day but my guy, I still make a point. I get dressed, I put on a little bit of makeup. I just want to, I want to feel as if I am stepping into work. So when there were days that I'm like, I'm not putting on makeup today, I'm going to work in my Mickey Mouse sweatpants. It's going to be great. I'm going to hang out under my blankies. That's what I'm going to do. It was really good to do that. It was really good to give myself that time. And I want you to pay very close attention here. I keep saying that I give myself time, not take time. I do believe very strongly that how you approach the way that you use your time, in particular in the words that you use around how you use your time, is very powerful. So if you keep saying, like, I can't take the time to do this, just have a look at that. The idea of taking something implies that there's lack, that you're removing it from something else, versus if you look at it as giving. Right? It's a gift. It's something that's joyful. It's worth being celebrated. There's positive energy around it. So I just encourage you to have a thought around that. But I gave myself the time to relax, to chill out, to just veg. And that was so good, because I have been really pushing hard most of 2019. I was really pushing hard on moving forward in the goals. But what I realized today was that I had begun becoming complacent. What was happening was I was falling in love with this idea of, like, oh, this is just so nice. If I could just, if I just could do the work, like, because I have a full-time job, right? So 40 hours a week, I'm working already. Whether I want to or not, I'm working already. And so my businesses come outside of that 40 hours. So there are weeks that I'm just like, can I just not do it? And so I realized that I was doing this. I realized that I was being talked into this. And when I say talked into, I mean the ego part of me, The same part of me that was bringing in this cold and allowing it to move through my body was also, adding that extra little layer at the time that I was the weakest, which is exactly when it adds in there, that, oh, wouldn't it just be nice if we could just be like this all the time? Wouldn't it just be nice if I could just like chill out? I just want to sleep in tomorrow. I feel like that's a good idea because, I'm tired, or I'm not sleeping well, or I'm not feeling well. And let me say again, take the rest when you're not feeling well. Give your body a chance to heal. But if you're like me and you've been getting sweet talked a little bit into, how lovely is this when I can sleep in till 8 o'clock? How lovely is this when, the couple of hours that I have before I start work in the morning are my own? I can just do whatever I want to. It is nice in a way. And on the other hand, if I'm not doing anything, taking any action in either of my businesses, then both of my businesses are going to suffer. I have ongoing projects in my design business that need addressing. And so, the longer it takes, the more friction it feels to get going. It's always overcoming that initial inertia, right? If you've taken the break, tell me if you can agree with this. When you take some holidays or you take vacation and then you come back, the first few days back at work, you're just like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I just want to stay home. It was just so nice to be on vacation and not have to, account to anybody or do any of those things. Those first few days require a tremendous amount of energy on your part. Once you're over that hump, you sort of get to like day 3, 4, 5, then you move back into routine. But those first few days, they fucking suck. Am I right? They suck. So that's what was happening to me. I was starting to get lulled into this inertia. So I started to pay attention to the questions that I was asking myself. My questions had been degrading a bit. Instead of going, how can I serve my body to allow it to heal? My questions were becoming, do I really need to do this in the morning? Can I push this off one more day? How important is it that I send this out today? Those questions are low value questions. They are not serving me. They are not serving my clients. They are not serving you guys. They're not moving anything forward in any way, shape, or form. But what they are doing is very quietly, very subtly moving me back into that comfort zone. So I'm going to be talking about Catherine Zinkina a lot again today, guys, because she's been sort of the center of my world the last little bit. But I know that I think she shared this on her Instagram page. I was reading an email from her a few days ago that was talking about how you move from a mediocre life into a good life. And then you need to move from good to great and great to extraordinary. And what was required of her as she moved through those levels. And moving from mediocre to good, that's easy in a way, because when you're in a mediocre life, you want change, you desire change. I think all of us reach a point where we're like, I'm fucking done with this. I want something better. That was me last year. That was me coming out of 2018 where I'm like, I am so done with the reality that I have. I don't want this anymore. I am ready to level it up in a big way. And so 2018 was the beginning of that. 2019 was the progression of that. 2019 saw a huge amount of leveling up for me. And I believe 2020 is going to continue. What I realized was happening was that I had become complacent. I had moved from mediocre into good. My life was feeling pretty good last year. By the end of last year, I was feeling like things were starting to come together. So now I'm in that level of good, and I'm looking at moving into the level of great. Here's the thing. Mediocre, as I said, easy to get out of. We don't want to be there because it's mediocre. We understand, we recognize when we're in that place that it could be better. We move into good, and in good, things are all right, right? Like I realized, okay, there is a steady financial stream coming in, which is wonderful. I am feeling challenged, positively challenged by the work that I have. That's fantastic. I feel like there's some really great things coming down the line. Awesome. But because I'm in the good, moving into the great, I feel like as we up level into each next level, the friction actually becomes greater to move from one to the next. Not because it's a test, not because it's harder to live a great life than it is to live a good life, but because it's harder for us to let go. It's easy to let go of something that isn't really that wonderful. It's easy to let go of something that's like, "Ugh, I'm tired of this job, or I'm tired of this, or whatever else." But it's harder to let go of something when you're like, things are actually moving along pretty good right now. Like I feel like I'm making some forward momentum. I feel like, I'm in a reasonable place in my job or my business or in my life or my relationship. It's harder to let go of that on the gamble that it's going to become better. So, mediocre to good is a relatively easy change. As it is with every step, there's friction in the change. There is fear in the change. There's anxiety, there's worry, there's concern, there's all those things. I'm not saying that they don't exist, moving from mediocre to good, but moving from good to great, which is where I feel like I'm in right now, moving into the great stage, there is friction, and the friction looks different. The friction doesn't look like unhappiness. It doesn't look like constant worry. It doesn't look like stress coming out of my eyeballs. The friction that I'm feeling, that I'm beginning to recognize and be able to put words around, is because I'm going from good to great. The friction looks like, well, wouldn't it just be easier just to stay here? What if I just slept in? What if I just took it a little bit easier? What if I didn't try that new thing that I was trying? What if I just wait a little bit? Why don't I just, play it safe and see what could happen before I jump all in? That is the friction that I'm seeing in the good to great. So I'm freaking excited, guys. I keep alluding to this. The goals that I have set for 2020, the person that I'm going to become, the things that I am that I'm going to accomplish this year, I'm so freaking excited about. But there is the friction between that point when I become this person who's achieved these things and the person I am today, because the pain is kind of gone, right? The pain of living a mediocre life, or even less than mediocre life, was enough. It was overwhelming to the point of where I said, I don't care anymore what it takes to overcome this. I refuse to stay here any longer. But now I'm in a place of living a good life. Things are pretty good. My relationship with Dave is in a good place. My health is in a reasonably good place. I'm relatively happy with my job. I'm relatively happy with the work that I'm doing with my businesses. But it's when I say relatively happy, I'm not ecstatic. It doesn't have me, bouncing off the walls. I don't wake up in the morning like bouncing out of bed thinking, oh my God, I'm so freaking excited that I get to live this life today. I also don't wake up going, oh my God, I'm so freaking bummed that I have to live this life today. Like, could I just stay in bed? Which is where I was a year ago, 2 years ago. So the questions that I've been realizing have been coming through have been low quality questions that, as I begin to identify them, are related, like I said, in that friction point of moving from the good life that I'm in now into the great life that I believe I will move into by the end of this year, if not sooner. So I would encourage you to really think about those things. Think about, what are the things that you're asking yourself? What are the questions that you're asking? Who are you asking them of? Are you asking these questions out in the world? Are you asking them of yourself? I have become a bit more discerning over who I spend my time with and where I put my energy toward. I am practicing as I get older. I'm practicing how to, in a nice, still, respectful way, moving out of a conversation or changing a conversation. There's a friend of mine who is very dear to me, and I adore her. I think she's wonderful, and we have great conversations together. But when it's her and Dave and I, the conversations change, and the two of them feed off a little bit of each other, of like the doom and gloom of the world. And I've spent time with the three of them. And on the way home, I think the last time, I forget, it was maybe 2 months ago, the last time that the three of us were together, the drive home, I said to Dave, I said, look, I am totally happy for you guys to have the conversations that you want to have, but these conversations are not serving me. I don't want to be a part of them. And I'm tired of trying to find a way to change the conversation and not being able to do so, or feeling like I'm fighting an uphill battle trying to bring some positivity to the conversation. So from now on, I'm going to practice. It has nothing to, I'm not upset with you, I'm not upset with our friend. It has nothing to do with that, but for my own self, for who I want to become, for my own emotional and energetic frequency, I need to remove myself out of those conversations. So if you're going to have them, I'm going to start physically removing myself, taking myself to another room, making up an excuse that I have to go to the I can sit in the washroom for 15 minutes. That's fine. I don't care. You want to talk about how I'm not feeling well? Great. Like, make up whatever story you want to. But I need to remove myself from those conversations. So, those are some of the things that I would encourage you to think about. What's not just the questions that are happening in your mind. Those are hugely important because, of course, we spend all of our time with ourselves, but also looking at the conversations and questions that are being had around you. Are you spending time with people who are asking leveling up questions? Are they asking you questions? I'm starting to hide a little bit, and not hide from a sense of like, this is not a good thing and I should just find a different way of doing this, but hide in the sense of I'm in a place of massive transition. I feel like right now my subconscious, my beliefs, my energetic frequencies are highly, what's the word I'm looking for? Impressionable. And so I am being consciously aware of who is in my immediate surroundings and the conversations that we get to have. There was someone from my hometown where I grew up that was out to visit recently, and I've known them for as long as I can remember, and they're a lovely person. But on the other hand, they're often the conversations and time spent with this person leaves me feeling all kinds of feelings that I don't appreciate. So, they were in town, they wanted to get together. So I did my best to limit the amount of time that we were with this person. I was also feeling really unwell. And so the first day I said, I'm really sorry. I'm so sick. I think I should just stay home and rest. But if you want to come over for like an hour or something, we can make dinner. That's cool. The next day we went out for dinner together, and I couldn't really speak. Like, literally my voice was almost gone. It hurt so much to talk. So I was talking very quietly, and I basically set the expectation, I can't really speak. But Dave can talk a lot. He's great at talking, and I can nod and smile and, be part of the conversation. It was true. I wasn't lying. I was having difficulty speaking. My throat hurt a lot. But on the other hand, what it also gave me was a way to not have to engage in conversation that I knew would not serve me, that would only leave me feeling frustrated, disheartened, or feeling like I was being attacked, like I had to go on the defensive. And those conversations happen a lot with people from where I grew up. And that's not a judgment on where the people where I grew up, but the person that I've become today, the way that I think and process through things is so different. And it's so interesting to me. It's quite fascinating to me, actually, to observe where I am now and the people that are in my life now and the people that I make a point of choosing to have in my life now versus the people that I was around, 10 years ago, and the way they think, the way they speak, the way they view the world. And what was so fascinating to me is to realize, like, oh my goodness, if I had not moved, would I have become the person I am today? And the truth is, I actually don't think so. I mean, I believe that all parts of our life really are shaping who we are becoming. But what I think was so fascinating is that I knew for years when I was living in Manitoba that was not where I was going to end up. I knew for years that I wanted to move near to the mountains. And I knew long before I even knew that I wanted to live by the mountains. I just knew that living in Manitoba was not for me. It was not the place that I was going to build my life. And it was not because I was unhappy there. It was not because of any of those things. I just had this knowing that this place was not for me. And so what I've begun to realize is how different I've become in my time here. And what's interesting, and you'll find this as well, as you're leveling up, as you begin asking those high value questions and leaning into becoming the higher version of yourself, those vestiges of your past, those people, places, experiences that are linked to your past, they've invested in who you were. They want you to stay the same, not because they're being selfish, because that's who they know. Change is a scary thing to a lot of us. Some of us lean into it. If you're here on the podcast, I believe that I call you change makers for a reason. Like I said last podcast, I call you change makers because you are out there creating change in the world. You are literally making change, hence change makers. And so you're comfortable with change to a degree, right? I mean, it's human nature to fear change a bit, but for the most part, all of us are comfortable in making that change, in stepping forward and allowing that growth. But as you do so, you're going to find that there are people in particular from your past who are not ready to see you in that way. And through no fault of their own, will do everything they can for you to return to the version of you that they know. Now, I'm going to add one more thing, and then I think we're going to wrap it up here. When you are in the process of change and beginning to embrace who you're becoming, it's also important to remember that as much as we might look at those people from our past and think, how can they understand who I've become? Or moving into time with them, kind of expecting a certain amount of behavior, a certain kind of behavior. There's also a very good chance that this person is also changing. So here's the example I have for you. And I don't remember actually if I've ever said this before or not. I've had a lot of friction in my life with my family members, and with my older sister in particular. She and I are very similar in a lot of ways, in that we're both extremely stubborn and very determined. We have a lot more similarities than I realized, that I'm starting to see now, which is always quite interesting to me. But growing up, we had a ton of friction between the two of us. We did not see eye to eye. We were our biggest, rivals. We were always butting heads. A lot of the friction that was in our home was between her and I. And so, we grew up, went through a lot of things, right? My parents got divorced. There was all kinds of things that were happening. And we became people that had our own defense mechanisms. And my sister was very much about, like antagonizing. What I'm beginning to understand now is she'd put you on the defensive. And what I'm beginning to see now is that was her defense mechanism. I'm sure she had her own hurts and her own fears and her own worries, but rather than be submitted to those, she would go on the offensive and take it out on somebody else. Better to put them on defense and make them feel bad about themselves than let anybody see how much I'm hurting or the things that I'm dealing with. I did not have this revelation when I was younger, let me tell you. So as I was in my 20s and into my 30s, and breaking out of this person that my family seemed to believe that I was going on a trip back to Manitoba last summer. I was going out to see my nephew and my niece. My nephew was getting baptized, and I was super excited. And my sister had asked if I wanted to stay at their home. And this was groundbreaking. I know that might sound like the simplest thing in the world, but we were not siblings that would easily stay with one another. In fact, any amount of time spent in the same building, in the same room together, often resulted in friction. And so she sent me a message like a month or two before I was coming out, would you like to stay with us? And I remember clear as day, we were on the way to the mountains. I don't know if we were going skiing, if we were just going to like the mountains for a day or something, but we're on the highway. We're headed west. This text message comes in, and I looked at Dave and I'm just like, I can't believe this. What am I supposed to do with this? And he said to me, I think she's extending an olive branch. And he says, it's up to you. But if I were you, I would accept it. I would accept the invitation. Go out there being fully prepared that you're going to be attacked and all the behaviors that, you're used to are going to come out, but also with the thought that, maybe things are getting better. And so if she does come at you like she has your whole life, then it won't be a surprise to you because you've gone out, prepared with the idea that this may happen, but understanding that maybe it won't be like that. Maybe it'll be different. All right. He's so wise. In so many ways, he's so wise. So the time comes, I'm driving out. Driving out from Calgary to where my sister lives is a 12-hour drive straight. It's not exciting. It's across the prairies. It's beautiful at times, but it's a long drive. And for about 9 of those 12 hours, I was listening to Oprah's Super Soul Conversation podcast. And I was soaking in all the Oprah and soaking in all the knowledge. And I forget who was all on there. But the closer that I got to my destination, the more nervous I became. When I got to being about 2 or 3 hours out, I was Oprah'd out. I couldn't listen anymore to Oprah. But I literally, I was beginning to physically feel fear. My body was starting to shake. It was all I could do to not turn the car around and be like, that's it. This is too much. I'm going home. I was about an hour out from my sister's place and I was thinking about all this stuff. And I was thinking about all these things that could go wrong when all of a sudden I realized my sister has invited me into her home. This is her home that she shares with her husband and with her 2 children. She's raising her children in this home. She and I, as I've already mentioned, did not have a good history. We did not have anything that would point to the fact that this could be a good visit other than the willingness of wanting to try. And if I wanted so much for my family to see me for who I had become and to finally not look at me as this 14-year-old version of myself that they seemed convinced that I still was, but as this person who's evolved and grown and moves through the world differently now, if I wanted them to look at me like that, then I owed it to them. I owed it to my sister to allow her to show up like that as well. That if she's invited me to her home, this is her safe place. This is where she's raising her family. This is where she goes to rest. This is where she goes to take more energy in, to, be able to recharge so that she can be out in the world. She's not just inviting me for lunch at the office. She's inviting me into her home to stay. And like I said, nothing in our history said that was going to be a good visit because we had never had one before. But if I wanted somebody to see who I was becoming, then didn't I owe it as well to her to go in prepared, as David said, prepared for what could happen, a repeat of the past, but also with the openness of being willing to see who she may have become. And it was probably one of the most beautiful visits I've ever had. I would not say that, it was not one of those movie visits where everything was just wonderful and everything was roses. When I got there, I literally planned to be there as late in the day as possible because the kids were already gone to bed, right? They're young. So even if I'm there at 7:00, they're already in bed. So I think I arrived at 9:30 praying that my sister would be going to bed soon so that our one-to-one visit with one another would be limited. That is how nervous I was about the visit. Our visit was fantastic. We had a lovely time together. I had a great time playing with my niece and nephew. I loved being there, soaking up the time with them. And there were some vestiges. There was some threads of the past of the person that she was when we were growing up and through my 20s. There was some of that came through. But because I was able to, be prepared for it, but also move into it with an openness, I could I could see that, not need to engage with it, understand this is just her way of being and she will or will not learn through that. But however she shows up is not for me to judge. All I can focus on is how I show up. And so what's come out of that over the year has been really actually a very nice relationship with my sister, a relationship that I literally never thought was possible. So when you're in the change, when you're moving from, mediocre to good or good to great, or hell, if you're going from great to extraordinary, I celebrate you. I'm super excited for you. That's fantastic. And let me know how it goes. But as you're moving out of this, yes, understand that, people from your past have a way of seeing you. They're going to look at you and expect a certain behavior or type of person from you. And the person you're becoming may cause friction with that vision. And so you may find, very likely, almost 100% likely, you're going to find that people are going to, through no fault of their own, find a way, any way that they can think of, to pull you back because that was the version of you that they know. So as you're leveling up, as you're going through this change, be aware of that. Be ready for that. Be okay with, if that's how they choose to show up, that's all right. That's on them. It's not on you. That's on them. But also have an openness for, what if this person's changing as well? When I look at my family in particular, there are changes that have happened in my family that I never could have imagined in my wildest dreams. The fact that I have a relationship with my sister that is respectful, that's a big one. That is relatively healthy. That we're not. I don't feel like I'm walking on eggshells all the time. Are we ever going to be super close? Probably not, but that's okay. I'm totally okay with that because the relationship I have with her now is just dumbfounding to me. It's so extraordinary to me that we have this relationship. If I look at my relationship with my dad, when I was growing up, I did not think that my dad would ever become the person that he is today. And so many people, I see this with, different people, that they have their parents that are a bit older, like, oh, they're that old, they're never going to change. The change that I've seen in my father over the last few years is astounding to me. So it's not at all that you reach a point that you just can't change. I'm 36 at the moment. If you're 50 or 60 or 70 and listening to this podcast, first of all, I celebrate you. Thank you so much for listening. But if you're feeling like, Amy, I'm at the point where, what's the point of changing? What's the point of not changing? What if maybe you're 70 years old? What if you live another 30 years? Do you want to spend another 30 years in the state that you're in right now? And if whatever point you're in your life, if you're concerned that, you're going to become this woo-woo person and you're going to alienate people, then ask yourself a real high quality question right now and ask yourself, am I willing to give up an extraordinary life so that I make everyone around me comfortable? Because that's the choice that you're making. Are you willing to do that? If you're willing to give it up, well, that's your choice. I'm not willing to give it up. I am willing to bet on the people who love me the most, the people who are willing to be in my life and to allow me to grow and to evolve and to change. I am willing to bet that those people will be happy and celebrate as I continue forward. Does that mean our relationships are going to change? Yeah, probably they are. And that probably means that there are some relationships that are going to fall by the wayside. I have to be okay with that. Because if I choose to live smaller, if I choose to stay in a mediocre life so that I don't rock the boat, so that I don't upset those other people, well, the only person I'm hurting is myself. And the truth is, when you choose to live smaller, when you choose to live in the mediocre or even stay in the good, if you're unwilling to endure the friction to go from the good to the great, which, as I said, that's the friction point I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling that friction of moving from the good into the great. If you're unwilling to do that and you're just going to stay where you are, what value are you bringing to the world? It's not to say, let me be very clear, it's not to say that people who are struggling right now, who maybe are, in a mediocre life and have not yet reached that friction point of making the change. It is not to say that they are not bringing value to the world, but how much more value could you bring when you level up? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm looking at. So I am willing to risk losing relationships that are not serving me, that are not supporting me, relationships that will not allow me to change. I'm willing to let those fall by the wayside because I am moving into a place of living a great life, on my way to an extraordinary life. And as I level up, as I overcome that friction and move into the next stage of who I'm going to become, the impact that I will have on the world around me will be greater exponentially. The person that I was 2 years ago could not sit here on this podcast and share information like this with you. The person that I was 2 years ago was a shrinking violet, was struggling and feeling like she was in the battlefield for her life on every possible front. And so that person could not affect change in the world. The person that I am today, the person that I am becoming, is someone who's becoming brave enough to weather the storm, that's becoming brave enough to say, you know what, I know I can do better. I know I can do more. So what if I just lean into it? What if I just gave myself permission to be okay with what happens around me? Because evolution doesn't happen without change, right? Positive momentum doesn't happen without change. If you want to look at this example just popped into my mind. If you look at a car standing still needs to change in order to become a car in motion. From what we see on the outside, it may look the same. The body of the car stays the same. The stickers, the paint, the lights, everything else looks the same. But inside the car, changes are happening. The only change that you can maybe see on the outside is that the wheels start turning. And you might be saying, well, Amy, that's not change. Yeah, it is, because when it was sitting still, they were sitting still. It changed from sitting still to being in motion. So think about that. Think about that in your own life. Am I willing to sit still just to be here, to make somebody else feel comfortable? Or am I willing to endure the friction, to ask the high quality questions, to lean into that growth so that I can become who I'm meant to be, so I can affect the change in the world that I believe I'm here to do? That's my call to action for you guys this week. Level up. Be okay with leveling up. And for heaven's sakes, be okay with letting those relationships, those people, those experiences fall by the wayside that are no longer serving you. Because, Marie Forleo says it every time, the world needs what you are here to give. I believe that. That's why I'm showing up every day. With that, I'm so grateful for you listening to the podcast. Today's been a little bit longer than intended, but I'm celebrating because I made it all the way through without my nose getting stuffed up or anything like crazy happening. And I'm super excited for you guys to join me next week. If you haven't already, like I mentioned last week, I am working on an experiment where I'm working on some products, actually, some really cool products. So it's a work in progress. It's not ready to launch yet. However, if you're at all interested, if you're at all curious, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast because as I start to bring this experiment out and start doing some testing, I'm going to do that first with the people who are subscribed to the podcast. So if you haven't already, if you're listening to this, wherever you're listening to this, first of all, thank you for listening to this. But wherever you're listening to this, if you have not already subscribed to the podcast, please do so. Go to daretobegin.net/blog. Again, I know confusing, but it's blog. daretobegin.net/blog. There should be a big subscribe button at the top of the page. So subscribe, put your email address in. What you'll get is, obviously, you'll get the podcast every week, will come straight to your email. You can listen to it on whatever platform you choose. But the reason that I'm saying subscribe is that if you want to get in on the ground floor of these new products that I'm testing out, I'm going to be launching them to the subscribing list first. And so, I think I've been toying around, like I said, toying around with some ideas in my mind of how I'm going to do this. But because it's a brand new stream for me, it's something totally new that I've never done before. I'm going to be doing some discounted products at the beginning because I want to get some feedback. I want, as you guys get the items, sort of let me know about the whole experience, the quality of the products, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to get in on that, then go ahead and subscribe, daretobegin.net/blog. Thank you so much for listening. Go out and make some big change in the world. I know you can. I believe in you. 2020 is our year, change makers. Let's do it. Are you tired of figuring it out all on your own? Of sitting in overwhelm, knowing that you're not moving forward, but having no idea where or how to start? Are you ready to learn effective, profit-supporting strategies for your business so that you can finally earn the money you desire and step into the freedom that you're working so hard to create? If so, I invite you to join me inside the Launchpad. You'll get instant access to free training designed to meet you where you are right now and propel you forward toward the dream that you hold in your mind. It's time to make a powerful move toward your future. Time to step up and serve the people who desperately need your help. Let's not keep them waiting any longer. Today is the day. Join the Launchpad now. Just go to daretobegin.net/the Launchpad and sign up. Your success is inevitable. Now let's launch it.